Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to 365 Days of Love and Miracles with A Course in Miracles. My name is Arlene Geres, and I am so glad that you are here. Please remember to listen right until the very end, because we have a special treat for you. And if you enjoyed today's video, please click like and subscribe below, because this helps others to find us on YouTube. Today's lesson is lesson number 33. There is another way of looking at the world. This is what we've been talking about right from the very beginning of studying the course. I hope that those beginning lessons now make more sense to you. It's all about unraveling our old way of seeing and learning to see a different way. Lessons 31 and 32 are especially valuable in helping us to understand today's lesson. Lesson 31, I am not the victim of the world I see. And lesson 32, I have invented the world I see. In lesson 31, we made our declaration of freedom, in which we committed ourselves to no longer being held back by our old ideas, our old grievances, our old pain, our old stories. And lesson 32, we accept that we project our old stuff onto what we're looking at. And then today's lesson, there is another way of looking at the world. We know that we only see a tiny bit of what there is to know about any person, place, or thing that we are looking at. One of my favorite stories is the blind man and the elephant. The first blind man felt the elephant's trunk, and he said, "For this elephant is like a tree." The second blind man felt the elephant's tail, and he said, "An elephant is like a rope." The third blind man felt the elephant's trunk, and he said, "An elephant is like a snake." It all depends on our perspective. Let's read today's lesson. Today's idea is an attempt to recognize that you can shift your perception of the world in both its inner and outer aspects. A full 5 minutes should be devoted to the morning and evening applications. In these practice periods, the idea should be repeated as often as you find comfortable, though unhurried applications are essential. Alternate between surveying your inner and your outer perceptions without an abrupt sense of shifting. Let's talk about it. We're going to really focus today on being aware of our own perceptions and how we project that out onto the world. So we're going to very easily shift back and forth between what's going on inside of us and what we're seeing outside of us. We want to really take our time, giving ourselves at least 5 minutes for our morning and our evening practices. But we're certainly welcome to take more than the 5 minutes if we wish. Let's read the next paragraph. Merely glance casually around the world you perceive as outside yourself. Then close your eyes and survey your inner thoughts with equal casualness. Try to remain equally uninvolved in both, and to maintain this detachment as you repeat the idea throughout the day. We want to be as detached as possible. Once again, this is helping us move from seeing through the eyes of the ego to seeing through the eyes of God. If we are attached to our thoughts, for example, if I was to look at this computer and start to go into all of my thoughts about it, I would not be detached. I love this computer, but I feel some anxiety that it might crash on me and then I could lose all of my videos. I also have an external hard drive attached to my computer that I upload my videos to as soon as I finish recording them. But I worry about that crashing and losing all of these videos. There's so much emotion and attachment that I have to this computer. But if I can look at it in a detached way, I can allow myself to love it without being anxious about what the future might hold for it. The same is true of the people in my life. If I can look at them in a detached way, without needing to have any anxiety or any sadness about anything to do with that person, then I'm able to really see them. Let's read on. The shorter exercise periods should be as frequent as possible. Specific applications of today's idea should also be made immediately when any situation arises which tempts to become disturbed. For these applications, say, There is another way of looking at this. Remember to apply today's idea the instant you are aware of distress. It may be necessary to take a minute or so to sit quietly and repeat the idea to yourself several minutes. Closing your eyes will probably help in this form of application. Let's talk about it. If we remember that I am not a victim of the world I see, as we read in Lesson 31, and Lesson 32, I have invented the world I see, then I can agree there is another way of looking at the world. What a great tool to use anytime that I'm upset. Just to remind myself, there is another way of looking at this. We can say that over and over again, and as we do, we will literally feel ourselves shift out of feeling any worry, any anxiety, any upset at all, and we'll come back to the feeling of peace and acceptance. Let's do a little exercise. I invite you to think of someone who you believe has hurt you deeply. Perhaps it's your mother or your father or a friend, perhaps a lover, or even a certain politician. Are you willing to consider that there is another way of looking at him or her? Maybe you can't actually look at them a different way at this time, but if you can open your mind to considering that there is another way of looking at them, hearing a different perspective can really help us shift out of that place of feeling hurt, feeling sad, of feeling neglected, or feeling abused. I always appreciate hearing somebody who really likes that person talk about what they appreciate about them, because that helps me to shift. Can we let go of the need to make someone else wrong in order to make ourselves feel right? The choice is really up to us. Can you imagine if the politicians did that? Let's start with our own responsibility. I encourage you to really focus on this lesson today, to be conscientious with your practice periods, and you will see the miracles that this course can work in your life. Thanks so much for staying right until the end. Are you ready for our special treat? There is another way of looking at the world. There is another way of looking at this person. There is another way of looking at this situation. There is another way of looking at this place. There is another way of looking at this thing. Have a day of freedom from anything that might be worrying you or upsetting you, my friends. I love you.